Hello, my name's Deborah Moggach. I'm a British novelist and I'm appearing at the Literature Live Festival, which is a great privilege. And I want to thank the British Council as well for this interview. I want to share some tips with you and tell you a little bit about my work. I've written 20 novels and some screenplays. I've adapted many of my novels as TV series, and I've also adapted other people's novels. I adapted Pride and Prejudice, Jane Austen's novel, as a big movie with Keira Knightley. And I adapted, the most thrilling of my books to be adapted was a novel that I wrote about sending to India to retire. And it was called The Best Exotic Marigold Hotel, because it really came out of the idea of, in England, old people are not treated as well as they are in India. Mostly shove them into old people's homes and forget all about them. And in India, it struck me that people respect old people a great deal more, and that India and England have a very strong bond, travelling both ways. I think British people coming to India feel very much at home, and vice versa. I think Indians going to live in Britain also feel at home, because our historical links are so deep. So I thought I would explore sort of the culture clash and the culture similarities and write a comedy about seeing about how old people cope with spending their last years in a little hotel in Rajasthan. And it became a huge hit and spawned many other books and films on the same subject. And I visited the location of the shooting, which is outside Udaipur and in Jaipur, lovely, beautiful Jaipur. So that's been a great adventure in India, but most of my novels are contemporary, sort of literary comedies and novels about families and relationships, because really all novels are about relationships. I remember when I was young, starting out, asking a very good writer what novels are about, and he said they're relationships between words, between characters, between dialogue and description, and I think he was right. One hopes that a message comes through. Basically, my message of my books is that you're not alone. Other people are thinking the same as you, and you're companioned in the world, because the characters in my novels will make you feel, will reflect thoughts and feelings that you've had. And I think novels are the best companions to have in the world. My tips for writers would be: don't copy anyone else, be true to yourself, be confident, because the weird thing about writing is that even if you are a very shy person normally and you have very little self-confidence, you really must drum up confidence that the world is going to want to know about your characters, and that these characters have got something to say of interest to the reader. My other tip for writers, which is a very important one, I think, is you should know the end of your story before you begin. I find that it's impossible to set out on this voyage in the dark. Some writers do. Don't know how they do it. My third tip would be turn off the internet, because social media is staggeringly distracting. My fourth tip, which in a way is almost the most important, is know your characters well enough before you begin writing. It's very tempting to plunge in too soon, because one gets excited about telling a story, or for whatever reason, or time's short and you feel you've got to get cracking. And that makes a huge difference, makes all the difference, because you then have confidence in the story. So you really have to try and know them well enough before you begin, and I can't emphasize that too much. And that applies to, I think, all writers. The knowing the end of the story doesn't always apply. I find it's useful. Work every day. Find out the time of day that you're most productive. Say you're giving up work to write, or giving up part of your work to write. Find out if you work better at night. Some writers do, particularly the drinkers. A lot of writers work best in the morning, and in the afternoon inspiration goes, and if you're working all day, the afternoons are often for editorial thoughts, correcting what you've written the day before or whatever, or just becoming a normal human being and going shopping and cleaning, washing. I've always worked only in the mornings, and in the afternoon I become a sort of normal person, whichever is more normal, being a writer or so-called normal person, I'm not quite sure. So I've worked since I was 25, and I started writing, funnily enough, when I was living in Pakistan for 2 years, and I was a sort of memsahib with nothing to do because my husband was working there, and I hated being a memsahib, a wife, and having somebody bringing me cups of tea and things. I thought I could do them myself. So I started writing then, and I became a journalist in Pakistan, and that gave me the confidence to start writing novels. And I drew on my experience in Pakistan, and then my experience when I came to India, which has been one of the great love affairs of my life, India, to write filled with love for India, really. So I wish you all best luck, those of you who are writing, because it's a huge adventure. And just be true to yourself and be confident in what you're writing. And don't worry about what people think, ever. Just write for yourself and for your unknown readers, because my liberation came when I went to Pakistan, and being brought up in Britain, I didn't have over my shoulder the thought of people saying, what are you writing, scribbling away, am I going to be in it? What will the reviews be like? I was in a country that was completely unknown to me, and that was very liberating. And that's when I started writing. So if you can pull yourself away from your background a bit, even by going and writing in another room, shed in the garden, anything, that helps a huge amount. So I wish you luck in your writing endeavours.